And today we're going to talk about chapters 1 to 8 in The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin. This is one of my all-time favorite books, so I hope that you enjoy this too. This is my second time reading the book, okay? And I hope that you enjoy this wonderful novel by Ellen Raskin, who actually wrote another book that won the Newbery Honor, which is also a mystery book like this book. And she also designed the original cover for A Wrinkle in Time, which is really cool. So I hope that you also, excuse me, check that out. But today we're gonna go on with the Westing Game, okay? So chapter 1, Sunset Towers. What do you think of Sunset Towers? And also, do you think that Sunset Towers would be a good place to live in your opinion? Also, the thing was, we see about Mrs. Wexler. What do you think about Grace Wexler? How would you describe Grace Wexler? And also, I wanted to also ask you about everyone, okay? And it says that why do you think that these people were specially selected? And there was also a mistake. Why? Who do you think the mistake is? And what do you think this is all about anyway? What did you think that this was all about anyway? By the end of our chapters, we do know. But right now, when you were reading this book and you hadn't got to chapter 8, you were just reading this part, what did you think? Okay, let's go to Ghosts or Worse. Okay, that's chapter 2. So they all moved in on September 1st, right? And what I wanted to ask you was about Shin-Hoo's restaurants, right? What do you think about Shin-Hoo's restaurants? And would you go there or would you go to the coffee shop? Okay, now we're going to go to in October, right? We see smoke from the Westing house. So what do you think about the Westing house? Do you think it's creepy or do you think it's cool? And why do you think there's smoke? Why do you think there's smoke? Do you think it's because somebody's in the house, or do you think it's a ghost, or do you just think that maybe something burned? And also, what did you think about the kids who went in? Did you think that was scary? Or did you think that was cool? And do you think that it was smart for Turtle to go into the Westing house? Or do you think that it was a cool and brave thing for Turtle to do? There's also Chris Theodorakis, right? He had actually seen a limper. Who do you think that this limper is? And what do you think of, how would you describe Chris? Also, I wanted to ask you, now going back, how would you describe Barney Northrop? And also about Turtle. How do you describe Turtle too? Okay, chapter 3, okay? Tenants in and out. What do you think of Angela Wexler? And also, I wanted to ask you about Mrs. Wexler, Turtle and Angela, right? Mrs. Wexler likes Angela more, right? Do you think that this is fair? And why do you think that Mrs. Wexler likes Angela more? And do you think that Mrs. Wexler, Grace Wexler, do you think that she's fair or not fair at all? Excuse me. And what do you think about Crow? Do you think that Crow what do you think of Crow? Do you think that she's suspicious or she's not suspicious? And then we go to Mr. Who because it's switching, right? From chapter to chapter, not chapter to chapter, but switching from character to character. So what do you think about Mr. Who's attitude to Doug and how Doug needs to study? Do you think that studying is more important, or do you think that sports is more important? And I also wanted to ask, do you think that Mr. Who will be able to keep his business up on the top of Sunset Towers, or do you think that he will get fired, bankrupt? And then there's JJ Ford. What do you think about JJ Ford and also Sandy McSuthers? Also, do you agree with JJ Ford that Otis Amber is a stupid man, if not downright mad? Also, we're going to Chris, right? I saw, but he actually is in a wheelchair. He can't sometimes, right? He can't really speak good. But what I wanted to ask you was, my question was this: do you think that sometimes people who don't get to speak are actually smarter than the people who can speak? Or, do not consider Albert Einstein or people like that. They were geniuses and they could speak. So just regular people, okay? Okay, Seidel Pulaski, she thinks that nobody notices her. Do you think that is true? And also, I wanted to ask you, do you like people noticing you, or do you like people who are not noticing you? And why do you think that Seidel Pulaski, why do you think that she wants attention? But anyway, we're going to chapter 4, which is called The Corpse Found. What did you sort of get from that, the chapter name? But do you think that Halloween is a good time to go into a haunted house? Also, then there was right? Turtle was screaming. What did you suspect the turtle was going to look like? Do you think the turtle would look like normal, or do you think that she was going to be mad or maybe bloody? What did you think about it? But anyway, what did you think about the house, right? And the descriptions, and then she saw the newspaper and it was like Sam Westing found dead. What do you think about Sam Westing? Because we sort of learn more about him, right? So he's sort of like a character in the book, even if he is not alive. So what do you think about Sam Westing? And also, there was no mention of how the body was found, right? What do you think about this? And why do you think that there's no mention of this? Also, I wanted to ask you about, there was E.J. Plum, and so he was an attorney at law, and Otis Amber was delivering messages, right? So it was this: as a named beneficiary in the state of Samuel W. Westing, your attendance is required in the South Library of the Westing House tomorrow at 4 p.m. for the reading of the will. Well, so what do you think about this? Do you think that this means that they will get money, or do you think that this is going to be something else? And how would you describe yourself if you had been one of the people who were there? Would you have described yourself as a boy, a regular boy, or would you describe yourself as a pet sitter like me, I actually pet sit a lot of animals, and actually I am going to pet sit a guinea pig soon. Just a fun fact. So Grace Windsor Wexler wrote down housewife, crossed it out, then put decorator, of course crossed that out, and then put Harris. What do you think that Harris is the right word for Grace? And also, I wanted to ask you one thing before we keep on going. Do you think that, why do you think that Mr. Westing wants these people? And it's sort of suspicious, right? Because these are only people being invited. What do you think their connections are? And why do you think that Sam Westing, everyone was there? Do you think that this is something important or not? Okay, chapter 5, 16 hairs. So, we are going in, okay? And what I wanted to ask you about that was the group and the reading of the will. So what I wanted to ask you at first was actually, what do you think about Grace Wexler's, attitude towards the other hairs? And do you think that this is a good attitude or a bad attitude? And then we will go on with the Westing will, right? What did you think the Westing will was going to contain anyway? Okay, so, well, first of all, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the Westing will? So this is going to be hard because I want to just read out what he says, not the whole will, but like the first, second, third, right? So I'm just going to say those things and then we're going to discuss it, okay? So I'm going to say, first, I returned to live among my friends and my enemies. I came home to seek my hair, unaware that in doing so I faced death. And so I did. Today I have gathered together my nearest and dearest, my 16 nieces and nephews. And then, what? Right? Grace, and then it says, sit down, Grace Windsor Wexler. It was written in the will. What do you think about that? Excuse me. And then second, it says that Samuel W. Westing did not die of natural causes. What did you think about that? Who do you think is the murderer here? And now third, it says that I wanted to ask you about things like I wanted to ask you about Judge Ford. She says it is a cruel trick or the man was insane. Do you think that it was a cruel trick or not? And also, do you think that there's the game, what do you think of this game? Okay, we're going to the Westing game, right? Yeah, what do you think of this game? And do you think that this game is going to be a good name or do you think that this is going to be a terrible game? And also, I wanted to ask you about something else. And what I wanted to ask you was, do you think that these pairs, how do you think that these pairs, do you think that they will help each other or do you think that they were just random people? And also, I wanted to ask you about something else. What I wanted to ask you about was the will. How do you think that Mr. Westing knew that Grace was going to speak? Or, stand up, sorry. And also, I wanted to ask you about something else, which is, what do you think is going to be the game? What do you think is going to be a prize? It doesn't really specify, right, if it's money, because, we don't really know, because they get a $10,000, but still, we don't really get this, right? We don't really know the prize. What do you think the prize is? And also, what do you think about the clues, okay? We're going into chapter 8, but anyway, the clues. Do you think that these clues are very, very, very confusing or not? And what do you think of hearing other people? Do you think that's cheating or do you think that's okay because the people should be more quiet? And do you think that these things, do you think that they will actually help them because, or do you think that they're part of a sentence? And also, what do you think about Mr. Who and and Grace, okay? Do you think that they make a good pair or not make a good pair at all? And also, I wanted to ask about Judge J.J. Ford. I wanted to ask you about everyone's clues. Can you think of any way that these clues could go into a sentence? Also, I wanted to ask you about Angela. Angela, she's stealing clues. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And do you think that this is the right thing to do or not a right thing to do anyway? And finally, do you think that Turtle is doing a good job with the stock market? And do you know anything about the stock market anyway? Also, finally, before we stop for today, the last question I wanted to ask you was this. What I wanted to ask you was this. Do you think that do you think that he will murder somebody else? He or she will murder somebody else in the game? Well guys, for today the Western game is over. Next time we are going to read a little more, but for today it's going to be over, okay? So I hope that you had a great time with me. Before you go, I just wanted to ask you, what was your favorite part in these chapters? Also, who was your least favorite character and your favorite character? How do you like this book so far? Is it scary or is it cool? I love this book, so I hope that you also enjoy this amazing book, okay? And what do you predict is going to happen next? Who do you think that will win? And do you think that Sam Westing, do you think that he is alive again? Okay, sorry. I'm making this too creepy, but sorry about that. Anyway, I hope that you have a great rest of your day or night, okay guys? Bye!